are venerating, strengthening ancestors that have not been elevated.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Go back and watch this video, okay? I've been saying this for such a long time. I try my best to give definitions wherever I can to help people really understand what they're talking about, right? So like when we talk about ancestors, first of all, because I also bumped into this situation this week too. First of all, let's talk about ancestors just really quickly. Like what is an ancestor? Because here on this here app, everyone thinks that when you die, you become an ancestor. That your grandma is an ancestor, that your aunt, your uncle who passed away is an ancestor. No. So we have the dead. We have our muertos, we have the dead. If you want to call them an ancestor, you can define it by saying that they are a lowercase ancestor, lowercase a ancestor. That might be a little more, gentle. But the reality is that death does not equate to ancestry. Okay. And so there is something to be said about getting that understanding off the bat. Now, what does qualify someone as an ancestor? To be honest with you, that is going to be up to your specific tradition. Okay. Those who have an ancestral tradition, those who come from a background where they honor the dead, they will have protocol. They will have what they require or what they deem as an ancestor. That might be, that they have to go through a certain amount of time, maybe a year or two or whatever. Some might say that it is 7 generations back before you can identify them as an ancestor. Some might say that that you're the one who creates the ancestors through your process, right? Whatever the case may be, that is going to be specific to your tradition. But one thing that will be truth across the board is that death does not equal ancestry, period. Okay? Now, when we're talking about veneration, when we're talking about elevation, when we're talking about all of these terms, it's really important to see it from the perspective of your tradition. So like hoodoo traditions versus this traditions versus that is going to be different. So I'm going to speak just from mine. I'm going to speak from a spiritualist tradition, okay? And from this tradition, we have a couple of ways in which we can deal with the ancestors if we choose to, okay? Now, when you are an espiritista, there is almost I don't want to say a requirement. It's not a requirement, but it's definitely a huge part of what we do. And so denying that piece of it, there's not much left aside from like the mediumship and like some of the other things that we do, right? But for the most part, our job is for the spirits. Like we work for the elevation and progression of spirits. And I say spirits across the board, and that includes human spirits, incarnated spirits, okay? So with that said, the way in which we work with these ancestors are going to have its process, right? So first we work with ancestors by healing them. So this is a process, if you so choose to do. This is a process of dealing with ancestors who went through a lot, who are considered in a place of purgatory, who are suffering essentially. And our job is to heal them, right? And so we are working diligently to heal them. These ancestors can be assigned to us and in our spiritual court, meaning that the things that they suffered from in life when they were alive may be things that you too have some issues with. And so through your healing of those issues, you are retroactively then healing them. So like it's a codependency in that way. So that's one piece of it. Another thing that we do is we honor our ancestors. We honor and acknowledge our ancestors. These are usually done around specific holidays, and this is for all ancestors, elevated or non-elevated. These are done on specific holidays or holy days. These are done in specific types of ceremony so that there are safety measures, right? Because again, we're dealing with all of the ancestors, not just the elevated ones. Then we have ancestral elevation, which is that process of elevating ancestors who want to be elevated and or who were assigned to you through your spiritual court so that you and your spirit guides can collaboratively elevate an ancestor. Okay? It's very similar to ancestral healing, except with ancestral elevation, we're looking at ancestors who are not necessarily suffering or going through issues, but are looking for a situation of almost being like deified, where they want to ascend into a sphere of elevation where they can then become spirit guides, right? Like they want to do the work of helping others, and so they need that elevation to do that. The ancestral healing, on the other hand, is the type of work where you're just getting them out of their suffering and getting them in the place of neutrality, getting them in a place where they can then receive the light from the other side. They can receive the schooling, they can receive all of that stuff that they need in order to reincarnate. Right now they might be in a space where they can't even receive that, and so they're going to need a lot of healing, right? So that's really where the difference is. And then, of course, lastly, there's ancestor veneration. So veneration is then dealing with those elevated ancestors, the ones whom you brought to a point where now they can assist you, and now they can, take on a certain mantle. Now you have an ancestral veneration practice with them, and it's a very like collaborative, very loving practice. There's offerings back and forth, etc., right? So these are just some of the ways in which we deal with our ancestors. And this last video was 1000% true. Like, because people have the wrong definition of what an ancestor is, they are out here giving offerings and venerating ancestors who need healing, let alone elevation, who need healing. And so therefore they're inviting these ancestors into their space, and these ancestors, yeah, they might be protective, sure, they might ride or die for you, but their energy is destructive, their energy is toxic, their energy is not at the level to be of assistance to you. They can only be at the level that they are for themselves. And so there is harm that can inadvertently be done despite their good intentions, despite how much they love you. Just their sheer proximity can cause a lot of issues in your life. So, I give my flowers to the previous content creator, because like, for real, we really need to get you can't listen to everyone on this app regarding ancestor work. Like, you just can't. You have these kids out here who are like who are still living in their mama's basement or attic or cottage or spare bedroom, and who are just out here giving information that they read from books. It's dangerous when we're dealing with these spirits, specifically like the dead. It's very, very dangerous, because the dead is so closely connected to us. Like, they were just alive. You know what I'm saying? So like, there is still a lot of ties. There is still a lot of connection to the material world. And so they can have a very big effect on your life, like a big, big, big effect, to the point where they can get you sick, to the point where they can kill you just by sheer proximity, not even on purpose. So it's really, really important to know what it is that you're messing with, and know what the goal is when you're working with these spirits. Anyway, thank you so much for this video, dude. Great, great, great topic. Again, my name is Leilani. This is The Magical Solution. This is how we grow. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Bye.